Hey, how's it going, guys? This is episode 6
6, yeah.
of This and That.
I was missing from a couple. I think we talked about that in a episode, right?
We did, and I also mentioned it when I was with Anicia.
Uh-huh.
Shout out Anicia. That was my last episode.
Doing good on that podcast, I saw.
1,400 views, which is like,
Hey, that's a good start, bro.
it is, and like you gotta think about, like, I didn't do any advertising. Like I created an Instagram. I did one clip, but it was so like, I was just trying to figure it out. So,
Yeah.
but it's been what 5-6 months.
Yeah, kind of just jumped straight into it, but welcome to This or That. That's what we're still calling it, right?
This or that.
This
That's
or
it,
That.
yeah.
I'm back to kind of like put into perspective. It's kind of Fike's venture for sure, but I had told him that here and there, whenever he doesn't have a guest and maybe he wants to do a podcast, I'm there to do it with him. Hop in. We
Yeah.
always have good combos, so finding that flow in podcast form would be nice.
It is, and it's also like the reason why I haven't done a podcast, why I haven't focused on these creative endeavors, is I always told myself, I said it's because of school, and I am busy with school. I've been busy with school,
Mm-hmm.
and in a way to testament that was indeed the case. I took my last final today,
Hell yeah.
so last final. We weren't even gonna do this episode tonight, but shit, we're here.
He asked me, I was like, I don't know. And then I asked him, when will you have time? He said he wasn't going to have time. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do it
Might as
tonight
well.
then.
Yeah.
Also, if you notice like some traffic noises, our set is like right behind the skyline right here. So
Yeah, not to
Pretty sure.
flex.
Yeah.
This is our new apartment in Austin. Last episodes that featured Logan, that were in our old place in the frat house.
Yep.
There's a vacant room. We kind of just used that to for the podcast, which was nice. But I think this view is better. The set is a little bit colorful.
Yeah.
Compared to the gray.
The gray backdrop.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely a better setup for sure.
But yeah, what you been up to, man? Since was it 5-6 months ago?
So I think when we started filming our last podcast, it was right before we took off to Miami. So
And there's a video. If you haven't watched it, there's a Miami vlog video.
it's actually such a good vlog. Go watch that.
Yeah,
You did
it's-
good on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of my better edits. I think I'm getting better at it. Miami was fun, huh?
It was. We just went to Ruidoso and you vlogged that. Are you gonna put
Yes,
that together? Or?
I am.
You
So
are? Okay.
I wrote down goals for this winter break.
Okay.
2 podcast episodes, and 2 videos. So I have 1 video already recorded. This is 1 podcast recorded.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully over time I can find it enough content to record the rest, which I'm sure
Yeah.
things come up.
Yeah, we'll be doing. So we're going to San Diego literally in like 8 days, 7 days for our friend Mark's birthday.
Yo,
Be good.
shout out Mark.
But what about you? What you been up to?
No,
I could tell them what you were doing, but I want them to kind of know.
No, let's kind of track back. Okay, we went to Miami.
Okay.
Fun trip.
Yeah,
Oh,
fun trip.
Very, very event. Okay, for perspective, I got broken up with first or second day of Miami.
Yeah, first, second day.
And every single day on that trip was very eventful and good and in bad ways.
Yeah.
But no, it was Miami though. I think a lot of people agree. That mentality of saying, oh, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, or what happened. Not that it stays there, but I think there was a sentiment of people doing things for the sake of the fact that it was Miami.
Yeah, I had talked to a couple people there who had done things that like aren't on the podcast to be said. If you were there, you were there. And the like sentiment that I got is that a lot of people went into there knowing that they were going to do these menacing things. They had they had missions when they went in there. It's Miami. I feel like
that's exactly
yeah.
what it is. Like I used to maybe like, even though I've traveled quite a bit, I may have not fully understood that sentiment. It's Vegas, it's Miami.
Yeah.
However, I think as of recent, I've been understanding it a lot more, and it's kind of misleading in a way because you go on a trip and maybe it's your first time meeting these people and it leaves first impressions of people doing things that they otherwise would not be doing in their normal lives.
Yep.
But then you're like, okay, it's Miami. So then you have to kind of like take them out of that mold that you may have created for them and be like, all right, like, this is not how you usually are. But either way, I think a great friend group formed out of that trip.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, to Fike's point, he was talking about, like, you go to a trip and you see how these people act. For me, I've known most of those people way before the trip, so my, like, perspective on who they are was set. But I think it's pretty interesting you going into it, kind of maybe not having that set image, but you didn't seem very judgmental. That's one thing about you, is no matter what the image of somebody is, you definitely always go in and treat everybody the same and try to have a conversation with anybody. Like, I feel like you could be in the room with a prostitute in one reality and be in the room with a president in the other, and I genuinely think that you will not be able to tell the difference between the way you interact with them. You're just going to have a real conversation with either.
That's like a very detailed but yet very flattering compliment. No, I appreciate that.
Which I'm not the same on that. So it's like, it's a very good quality that I kind of like look to emulate from you sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I think I'm like, I guess you're just not judgmental.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting on how people view others based off of couple characteristics that they may have gotten from them.
We talk about that a lot. People have this view of you.
Yeah.
And they don't know.
Yeah, and one of my friends, we had known each other for a while, but we never really talked. And then one time we're talking about internships and we're talking about all these things, and she deadass told me, she was like, I thought you were just daddy's money. And for anybody who knows me, like, everything that I own, that I do, is generated by my own, one way or another.
Yeah.
But it comes from me, right? So it's like, and hearing that was kind of interesting when I'm like, like, yeah, like, why would I not be perceived that way? Like, of course people think that about me.
I think it's genuinely when people think things about you that aren't accurate and maybe aren't flattering, what I've learned is it's more of a reflection on what they think they're capable of. And I've told you this off camera before, but I think it's worthy of being said again on camera because it can help people be less judgmental or understand where somebody else is coming from when they're being judged. But I think if somebody knows deep down within themselves that maybe they're not capable of living the lifestyle that you and I live on their own means,
they cope with.
They're like, no, it's not possible for me. So for him, it's probably the same way. He's not. That's what I've learned.
No, that is actually a very good assessment. I think like the other day I saw this TikTok or video or something where like it was like a guy driving at like 5 a.m, and then the caption said, when you're driving to your blue collar job at 5 a.m. because you decide to be funny in high school, right?
Yeah.
So obviously like what that entails is maybe a construction worker or somebody who does like manual labor is going to work early in the morning, whatever. I mean, I don't think I need to explain that, but a lot of people in the comments were sounding off on how actually they don't need a college degree and like these coping mechanisms of saying, well, actually, and I think that psychology could be applied to anything in life where you're like, you look at somebody and you're like, oh, they're doing better or they're doing these things that I would want to be doing. Well, surely, and then there's X, Y, and Z, like this judgmental characteristics that they entail. Some accurate, some inaccurate, but
Yeah, were you gonna fit?
No, go ahead.
I think there's too many people, and I would say most of the people out there have this mindset to some certain extent, or they're fully like delved into it, is that there is a way to do things. So you'll have a guru come on a TikTok clip saying, you don't need college to be successful.
Yeah.
You'll have somebody from college saying, I don't understand how you're going to be successful in this field without a college degree. I don't understand how you're going to get into tech without coming from a good college or having a good background. Yeah. But I think the one thing that I've learned is that there's no one singular way to do things. There's like the Andrew Tates out there who tell you, do you want to be good? Be Haram, don't or
Halal.
be halal, do this, stick to your guts. Like gives you this definitive guide that makes you feel like any other way that you
It's just
live
wrong.
is you're not gonna find success, which just isn't true.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like saying, oh, you can take a bike or walk or drive or fly to point A to point B, but there's different ways of getting to your destination.
Yeah, like maybe for Michael Phelps, swimming might be more efficient than you running.
Yeah.
But maybe it's
Probably.
an average match. Just depending on your ability depending on your ability and your circumstance depends on what the best strategy is to get from point A to B. You should never have one generalized idea.
That's exactly what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's just more like, all right, like what can we work with? Okay, let's we delve into these like
It's like branches.
philosophical. Yeah. So Miami led to a lot of friendships.
Uh-huh.
And kind of, I mean, I don't even think it's TMI. I'm very open with a lot of things. So my first or second day there, I pretty much month of July was very eventful for me. I'm just gonna kind of like talk about what happened. Um, Month of July, I traveled a lot. For 4th of July, I was in Miami. For July 11th, my birthday, I was in LA with Logan, and then I come back on like the 18th or something, or like 16th, and like within a couple days, Logan, our friend Ariel, who never traveled with us before, like it was his like first time on the plane or something, and our friend Mark, and like 20 other people that are like most of which I know that are great people are going to Miami for Rolling Loud, and at the time I was with my girlfriend, and I said I'm not gonna go.
Okay, so you're gonna.
No, yeah,
Alright.
I don't mind explaining and exposing myself, I guess. And couple days before, we're in the room with a couple people that are going, including Logan, and one of them says, you're skipping on this amazing trip of a lifetime for a relationship that may not last forever, which he wasn't wrong. But and maybe that's not what he said verbatim, but it was something along those lines. So then it was like 3 or 4 in the morning. They're about to leave in 1 or 2 days. Like it was very last minute, and I said, "Fuck it." I bought my flight.
Yeah, keep in mind he had said no to this trip for about like probably 3 weeks to a month.
No, couple months. Like
Yeah,
this
couple
was very
months.
premeditated. Like when we do these trips with like 20 plus people,
Yeah.
there's a lot of organization that has to go into it. There's
Yeah.
car rental, there's Airbnb, there's like all these things that we have to organize.
Yeah.
And in this case, Logan was the person behind all of it pretty much up until that point. And me and my girlfriend at the time had very open discussions about actively being against going, because I said, you know what, I don't want to be in that environment. Like, I don't know, whatever. So it was very hypocritical of me to go last minute.
At least you could say that, like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it wasn't a cool thing to do, like to your partner. Like, that's not cool. And I even admitted this to her, like, but yeah. So that happens. We go first day there. I kind of took over the organization side of things from Logan because he was, very. He had been very busy, stressed, and tired doing it, and I feel like naturally I just have a tendency of just like helping people or organizing things. So then, all of a sudden, like we spent 1.7K on alcohol.
Oh yeah, we could pop up a picture. Is that too much editing?
Yeah, we'll pop
a picture of all the alk.
What's the time? Okay, I'll figure it out. But yeah, it was a lot of alcohol, and I don't drink, so I was organized. And then we had the car rental, we had groceries, we had all these things. So I'm busy, and we had to pick up people from the airport, and we're driving this huge van. Which if you watch my vlog, you know the van.
Go watch that vlog.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it already, go watch the vlog. It's on my YouTube channel. Anyways, so then end of that day, I get this text from my girlfriend at the time, and pretty much, kind of agreeing that it's not or stating that's not a cool thing that I'm, all of a sudden on the strip, there's these girls that she doesn't know. I'm staying in an Airbnb with 20 people. understandably and admittedly, like, yeah, she kind of wanted to have a conversation about us, about our future, which I agreed. And my first sentiment was to say no, like, let's like, I love you, let's make this work, we're gonna make this work. But then, the more I thought of it, and there were people at the trip that really gave me great advice, that said, hey, like, look, you are selfish to want to keep holding on to her. Even though it's not going to work, out of comfort, you want to keep holding on to her. But in doing so, you're actively holding her back from finding the guy who will treat her right.
Dang, who told you that?
Ariel.
Okay, sounds like it'd come from him.
Yeah,
that's good though.
No, and he's also very well spoken, so I'm probably like quoting him verbatim. Or that was the idea of what he was trying to get across.
Yeah,
I was like, damn, like, you're right. So then I sent her a text. I'm like, you know what, like, maybe we shouldn't be together, or maybe. I just kind of agreed that it was messed up what I did, and I apologized, and I said, maybe you're right, like, maybe we should have a conversation about our future. But that, obviously, like, in her head, that's like, all right, like, we're done. And then that's where she broke up with me. Which, like, it's so weird. Like, in the beginning, I was like, I broke up with her. But, like, she was the one who made the decision, which doesn't matter. Anyway, so then there was some aftermath that was kind of ugly, like, that we don't need to get into. But that's pretty much what happened. So now all of a sudden I'm in Miami. Everybody's drinking and partying and fucking, and I'm just kind of like, damn, I'm sober, and that was a tough. And the cops got called, and then people were fighting, and people were fucking, and
it was a Miami trip. Like, whenever you just think like a Miami trip, everything you think happened on that trip.
Yes.
Fights,
except for threesome. That was very close, but that didn't.
Yeah.
But yes, everything that, it's Murphy's Law, right? Everything that could go wrong went wrong. Everything that could happen happened. That's
everything that could go right also went right. We had a lot of fun at the festival. Pretty much any issue that arose was reprimanded in some way. We fixed the plumbing.
Oh,
the fights kind of settled down.
The plumbing, yeah.
No,
we don't need to like say his name, but yeah. Somebody, it's in the vlog.
It's in the vlog.
It's in the vlog, yeah. So what I gained out of that trip, which, like, Logan knows, it's like I've been on a lot of trips, and there's not a lot of trips where I can say like I've gained a lot from. But Miami was definitely one where I was like, damn, like, this is something. What would you say? Like, did it change anything within you, or would you say like the aftermath affected you more?
I would say with our friendship, I don't mind because the story kind of it branches from other people, which won't be mentioned, but it ultimately, I couldn't have cared less about the damage it caused to relationships with other people, but I guess a little bit of harm it did to our relationship did matter to me, and just because it's between us, I feel comfortable sharing it on the podcast. But I think that was the first time that obviously I know we're homies, like, obviously I know I fuck with you in my life. I've made that clear to you before and after, but that was the first time, because you're never really in a situation where you're gonna lose your homies.
Yeah,
like, you're
never in that position where you're like,
yeah, that's like some relationship shit, like, oh, I talked to another girl, like, it's just with your homies that doesn't happen as much because it's not
usually
much,
like over time and like things like you fall off.
Yeah, it's more distance and all that. But we just had a very exact scenario that I think made you genuinely like question, like, fuck, do I want to be here with Logan right now in this moment? And I still remember what I told you, and it's these type of statements don't come from me often. I feel like I'm a little too prideful at times to ever say these things to anybody. But in that moment, I felt like that humility of saying what I said was necessary to reprimand the situation and show you that I cared. I think I said, you were telling me you wanted to leave. You were like, honestly, bro, I don't think I want to be here with you right now. Like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave with Naya for a couple days. And then in that moment, I had, like, a moment where I was like, all right, your pride of just being like, all right, bet, do what you need to do. Or to say how I felt, and I was like, bro, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want you to leave. Like, please just stay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't give up what I believed in. I told you I may not agree with you, but I want you to stay. And I looked at you in your eyes when I said that, and I think you looked at me and you were immediately like, all right, but I'll stay. So I think I learned a little bit more of humility. It was a key moment. I don't think you probably even realized that until now.
I remember, like, feeling very emotional, like, the morning after, like, everything went down. But I remember the moment, like, I was, like, in the closet in the main master bed. Like, I remember the moment, but I didn't realize, like, it had, you know, that big of a pivotal effect on you.
Yeah, I think you're very used to saying you wear your heart on your sleeve. I was talking to Anna about this. We can get into who Anna is later for the people who don't know, but I was telling her this literally yesterday, that one of the things I respect about you the most, that I think most people could fix all of their issues if they just do this, is just wearing your heart on your sleeve. Looking at what's in your head exactly and saying it out loud to the person in front of you. You always do that. Yeah. You always say exactly what you feel, even if you might feel embarrassed, or maybe you don't because you say it. But with me, I'm not like that. Like, I don't have those humble moments very often where I tell somebody, no, please, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like stay. Exactly how you feel, yeah.
I just say, okay, if you want to go, well.
Like being kind of like letting them do
nonchalant. Like
nonchalant, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was like a learning moment for me at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this in the past as well, but
it's like a fucking therapy
for
session,
like,
but
yeah, I mean, it's good to
you
know, have those moments. Yeah. We talked about this in the past as well, but you know, there are, like, I guess the terminology may be different, but like I look up to people, different aspects of people's lives, and you like respect different aspects of people's lives, which pretty much just means there are aspects of people's lives that they may be doing better in that we respect and look up to. And like one thing that I really respect about you is your like social intelligence and like the I guess the right thing to do in social settings, because like, you know, the right thing to do in, I don't know, like in terms of law, like, yeah, don't commit crimes, right?
Yeah.
But like in terms of like social settings, there's so many factors involved, like how other people feel. You need to kind of like understand the psychology of the people involved and how that may play into the way you deliver it is a big important thing. Like, how do you go about saying it?
Yeah.
How do you go about, like, if you're gonna text somebody, even the social connotations of like double texting, like there's all these like different factors involved. And one thing I really respect about you is you're really good at assessing. Like, I had like an exact image in my head where I like ask you like, yo, like, should I send this text? You'd be like, and they like, let's just like reword it like this, or, you know, maybe give them a call, or, you know, if you're gonna see them on the street, say to them that like, don't go out of your way to text them or something. And that's something that really like rubbed off on me. And, you know, I've told you this, but like my freshman year when we first met, there was like first semester or 2 semesters where I would be like, what would Logan do? If Logan was in this position, what would he do? And I would kind of like try to look at it from your point of view. And be like,
that's actually like interesting to think about, because we had this conversation. I told you I do that with you and Mark. But it's weird to think that we were simultaneous, because mine often when I was like, okay, what would Fike do, also was in social situations.
Yeah. So
it's kind of weird to think that we were both saying, what would the other person do whenever.
So is that the original?
The thing that we were doing was what the other person was doing.
Is there any original action?
Yeah, who knows who originated what we just keep bouncing off of each other. Pause. Yeah. But yeah.
That's crazy. But all right, so let's get into Anna. You want to tell us?
Okay, Adele.
No, because earlier.
Yeah.
You were like, oh,
no, I don't mind.
What Anna is.
I figured it would come up like organically, but I don't mind jumping into it either. So Anna was it's a girl I'm talking to. She's basically. We're just talking right now, but in every single way, I treat her like my girlfriend. I don't do talking and
Like talking to multiple people.
Yeah,
and then
I don't do that. I don't have any judgment on people who think that that's somehow the right way to live life. I don't agree with it, but to each their own. We're more than talking. I wouldn't. I want to ask her one day, so I don't want to do her the disservice of calling her my girlfriend before I give her a proper asking.
That's a very good way of articulating
Yeah.
and saying it. Yes,
Yeah,
that's the reason. That's the as far as labeling things go. That's the reason why.
Yeah, but to any girl who's like, "Oh, he just said they're talking," no, I'm
Yeah.
taking. I have a girl.
Yeah.
I'm claiming her. All right, but basically, yeah, she was on that trip in Miami. No advancements in our relationship were made on that trip at all. I think we were in the house together for 7 days.
Dude, yeah, we went to Miami for 7 days. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't talk to her a singular time.
Yeah.
Maybe like once or twice.
One-on-ones. Also, like we're
Yeah.
there for festivals, so a lot of the time, what it consists of is just people pre-gaming the festival, which I don't do, but pre-gaming the festival or at the festival or before the festival, we did go to a couple like Design District and a couple like hotspots in Miami. So for anybody really to have a one-on-one with somebody is kind of hard.
Yeah.
But it just so happens that your current girl was somebody you didn't have those moments with.
Well, if I'm being honest with you, and I've told her this before, I pretty much had one-on-ones with everybody except for her and the friend that she brought, and yeah, but honestly, I told her honestly, maybe it, like isn't the most flattering thing to hear, but when I first like interacted with her, knew about her, I can't lie, like the interest wasn't there immediately. It has nothing to do with physically. Anybody who knows her knows she's beautiful. It didn't really have to do with face value. I just, something about me didn't want to be open to it for whatever reason. I just felt like she may have not had the qualities that I wanted. Fast forward a month in, 2 months in, and like I had not known that there was such thing as a girl who's like 10 out of 10 on the outside and the inside. I thought you had to compromise. So
Yeah.
to say the least, I was like very caught off guard with who she became to be, which is just who she is.
Yeah.
I guess I just judged a book by its cover by not.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you may have judged her.
Which you didn't.
Yeah.
And like that shows again how you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in those type of situations, it is easy to kind of like get caught up and be like, kind of like put them in a mold, in a category of, you know, these type of people, like whatever it may be. Oh, they're from El Paso girls, or Austin girls, or Texas State girls. Like there's all these, and as guys, like I guess girls do the same thing to us. Like, oh, guys from El Paso ain't shit, or guys from San Antonio are cheap, or whatever. So it's easy to get in that mentality and put them in this mold, and this goes with anybody. I think I sometimes do that still.
You're definitely better about it. I think you have the judgmentalness that I do, to the level I do, but you don't let it impact the way you interact with others, whereas I do.
Okay.
You may think, I think this person's like this, but what you do is you don't treat them different, and you give them the chance and talk to them, and then you quickly realize that they're not like what you first perceived. Whereas me, I don't even give them the chance, which I'm learning to do. I just learned that.
Yeah, that's very, very like open and like vulnerable that like you're admitting to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, you get to know somebody. You don't judge a book by its cover. That's fucking tale as old as time, right? Like everybody says that shit. Or it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But it is true. Like all these sayings that that have lost their values, like their true meanings, they've lost it over time. But when you know, really take the time to understand the sayings, you're like, oh yeah, like that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you guys have been talking for a little bit. We've been on 3 trips. So Miami, I guess, Brightside.
Oh yeah,
Festival.
Brightside is where her and I rekindled
Yes.
And I can give like a quick rundown.
Yeah, let's go.
Rekindled in Brightside. Things ended shortly after that because I'm dumb, and yeah, and then I went back to El Paso for a baby shower. We ended up talking things out, and again, she has taught me so much. I think that's when I say like 10 out of 10 on the outside and 10 out of 10 on the inside, where the inside comes. I've told you this. There's only been about 3 people in my life who I've actually felt that I've like taken and learned from, and that would be you and my brother. And prior to meeting her, it was just you and my brother, really, where I felt I had learned things from.
Yeah.
And it surprised me that she's actually like taught me so much about like human interaction. I feel like she's so mature.
Yeah, and
So-
for context, we're 20. She just turned 18 in August, which was before Miami or after. But yeah, she's a couple years younger than us.
But I feel like she's definitely more mature.
Yeah, and the fact that you can
It's
like
crazy.
openly admit to these things, and I've had like one-on-one conversations with her as well, and it is very impressive. for
Bro, she's gonna
somebody.
enjoy this screen time for sure.
Yeah, that's
It's like 20 straight minutes about her.
Yeah, no, she's great, and
But that's my girl, so yeah.
yeah. Did I mention that
Yeah.
slogans? Yeah. I think in the end of the day, like, I've realized this. I used to have this false predicament of, and it sounds messed up, and maybe it holds true, but whenever 2 people walk into a room, if you are given the facts about who they are, where they come from, there tends to be a general consensus of who should be talking more.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we run that down with you and Anna grew up in Austin, 18.
Grew up in El Paso.
Grew up in El Paso, 18, doesn't go to school, has her own business.
And I don't agree with this, but generally in a professional setting, male. It's kind of changing with the times,
yeah,
but in general, as messed up as it is, I just believe that generally the male is sometimes paid attention more. So that's another thing.
oh yeah,
Female.
males paid attention more, more opinionated, like whatever societal, I guess like gender oriented tendencies that there may be.
Yeah.
Male, in her case, female, 18, El Paso, doesn't go to school, has her own business,
Uh-huh.
lives with her mom occasionally, right? Not to air out her business, but
Yeah.
so then, in your case, goes to a great school in Texas, UT Austin, in the nation, right? Lives on his own, works, makes really good money, pursuing a degree or like whatever these assessments. So if you put these 2 people in the room, you would think you would have more to say, just based off of these assessments, and I
then-
used to agree with that.
And then come to find out, she's like the one teaching me all these things. So you never really know like who has that wisdom just within them.
Yeah, and I mentioned this because I was listening to a podcast with Joe Rogan and The Rock, and in my head, like, Joe Rogan is very successful. He's very, very successful, but The Rock is like, they want this guy to run for president. Like, he's already like, what has he not done?
Yeah,
right?
he's set.
Yeah, he's been. Yeah, he's like.
Yeah.
Anyways, so in my head, I was like, oh yeah, like, The Rock is gonna talk more, but go to find out, The Rock is asking Joe Rogan questions. He's like, like, how did you deal with this? And kind of like wanting to learn from him, even though he's so like up there. Like, you would think, right? Like, you would think once you're there, but this guy has so much humility, and he's still asking Joe Rogan questions. So then I'm like, so who am I to go into a room with anybody to assume that they can't contribute to me? I mean, I literally, this is like a very recent realization for me. I used to have this thing where I'm like, there's not a lot of people that can contribute, that can say things that will add value to my life, kind of like along the lines of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I that's also like, it's so true. Like, there's not a lot of people that's how I see it, but that doesn't mean, or not, that's not how I see it. That's how it is, but that's not how I see it. That's how it is. Like, there hasn't been a lot of people, like you said only 3. my number's probably around there as well. But then, if you're open to it.
Yeah, that is true. There's probably so many more people. Like, my list could be far more expansive beyond you three if I had given more people a chance. So I think that's actually, like, I'm having a realization, like, mid-podcast, maybe, like, like, maybe the more questions you ask and the more people you see as viable as, like, resources to listen to, maybe the more knowledge you have. And I guess that's not even really uncommon knowledge. Like, you always hear people say the smartest guy in the room is the one who asks the most questions, which is just a statement, but I guess that's just a statement that epitomizes the point that you just put it forward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's easier to do that when when you have quantifiable ways of measuring success, right? Like my mentor right now, he works at a big company. He's the one I had a coffee chat with. I don't want to air out the name of the company, but he works at a big company, very high up there. And when I see him, like, this guy's like 50 something, and he's doing really good for himself. So obviously, like, there are things I want to learn from him, right? But it's hard to approach with that mentality to somebody that you might just meet.
Yeah.
In a party setting like Miami, right? Like, why the fuck would you have that mentality? But I think it's good to have that mentality.
Yeah. And also, he mentioned about mentor. I know he's not going to talk about it on his own out of humility, but, like, at least, and you said you didn't want to talk about it, but I think, like, other people should know, like, what are the brief details of, like, how you've been doing with, like, internships and stuff like that.
All right, yeah. Thank you for bringing it up. So to wrap up this, I guess, thing, it's just more, mentality matters. Don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so after Miami, we came back, and to this day, it's been, over 4 or 5 months, and I haven't spoken to my ex, which I feel like it taught me a lot. I guess being single, you go from being with the same person all day, every day, doing everything together, going on trips together, right? And then now you're on a trip and you don't get the master bedroom.
Yeah.
You're on a trip and you don't have that person you can come back to the end of the hectic day and be with. Instead, you sleep on the couch with like 7 people. And it's like,
yeah,
that's all good,
It's my turn.
Yeah. A good thing about organizing these trips is we get the call on who gets what. And since, Logan's got a girl now, anytime we go somewhere, it's like he gets the master. But so I really focused on myself this semester, and I went to recruiting events. I went to different types of networking events and career fairs and all these things, right? And I got rejected quite a bit. But there was this lady that I met, Monica, who really, really helped me. I met her at a career fair in Houston months ago, in the end of November maybe, or October, beginning of October. Either way, she helped a lot with recruiting, and she helped a lot with recruiting. And essentially what it came down to is I got an interview with a big company, EY. Follow me on LinkedIn, Faik Talan. I got a big interview with them. And I think the point of getting there is just putting yourself out there. Any event there is, just go put yourself out there. I met this lady in Houston, and we're having a genuine conversation. First impressions matter, and this lady's a recruiter. She talks to students all the time, right? We're having a conversation. I looked at her and I said, hey, like, what can I do to leverage this interaction in my favor to get hired by you?
Damn.
And that's a very straightforward thing to say, right? But I even told her, I said, like, in the end of the day, I'm a student at a career fair. You're a recruiter at a career fair. You're here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. What can I do? Like, you're kind of getting into it. Like, and she was kind of, like, taken back a little bit. And then she said, I guess told me in detail on how we could network and connect. And then I had the interview coming up, and I was like, I really want to understand like this position I applied for, like I want to know what it is. So I reached out to people who practice the same thing on LinkedIn. I maybe texted 10 people. 2 of them responded. One in Austin, one in Dallas. The one in Austin, we met up, we got coffee chat, cool. The one in Dallas, she explained a lot of things to me, gave me a lot of good insights, to the point where when I was being interviewed, the senior manager was like, how do you know to ask these questions? Like, it's so specific to, you know, what they're doing. And it's like, that's where I realized, like, this is what you're supposed to do. And, like, shout out to my friend Jake. Like, he's been a great help, you know, in navigating these careers. But all that to answer your question, I got an internship in New York this summer. Thank God, thank my friends. Like, it's been very stressful. This whole semester, I was switching.
I've literally seen this guy just coming home every day, coming home in suits all the time. Like, he put in the work, and he kind of, to people who go to UT Austin and are in this particular field, they don't need clarification because they understand. But as his friend and wanting to let you guys know, and I know he's not going to gas it up that way because he's humble as he should be, but where he got accepted to is a very big company. Not a lot of people are going to get into the position that he got into. And it doesn't confirm that he'll be in this place in life, but what he's doing is setting him on a trajectory to do very good things in life that not a lot of people are doing. So it's a very big thing. So good shit, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Like, it's always very flattering to hear, like, I guess the things that I've done maybe from a third person perspective.
Yeah.
Wearing suits and I don't really think about those things. It's just, you know, you do it because you have to. But
it seems normal in the circle of UT students who are all doing amazing things. But, like, put in perspective, you're doing something that maybe not, like, maybe like 80 to 90% of people in your age range aren't doing right now.
Yeah.
So
no, I appreciate it. I think it is a good thing, and I'm grateful. You know, being first generation, it's always hard to navigate these times. That's why I'm grateful to have good mentors, good friends, people that do help. Like, even like having you as moral support. Like, after recruiting event, I would come and be like, yo, like, this happened. You'll be like, good shit. Like, and just even that helps, because, like, you do it, and, like, I guess just kind of tying it back to, like, my ex, but, like, you come home and there's nobody you would, like, who, what? And my parents, not that they don't really understand. Like, no matter what I say to my mom, she'll be like, great job. Like, there's not a skill. Like, it's just, you know, they're grateful, and they're appreciative of the work that I'm doing, and they're proud. But it's kind of hard to get that positive feedback from anybody. So, like, having you and obviously, like, or other friends around, it's always, like, flattering and great to have that. That's so cool.
Hell yeah.
But I guess to kind of finish that up, I think I was listening to Joe Rogan. Fucking, who'd have thought the guy who has a podcast listens to Joe Rogan? Wait, one second. Alright. So I was listening to Joe Rogan and The Rock, and I realized, like, a lot of things that we do, whether if it's working out and going to school, we look at it as we have to.
We get to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We get to do these things. Like, there are people who have, you know, like my dad, he drives for Uber most of the days. Like, he's probably out here driving for Uber right now. Like, and that's what he has to do to support himself and us. Well, yeah, like, this is family, right? Whereas, like, I'm like, oh, I have to wake up at this time to go run. So I'm like, I get to have the ability to wake up at this time.
Yeah.
And run.
Yeah, and I was just talking to Rachel and someone else about this yesterday. Like, I feel like people lock themselves in this mindset that they can't do things, But if you can, what I started doing that kind of changed my life lately is thinking, okay, is there a possible scenario where this thing that I don't want to do seems possible? And if the answer is yes, then I started doing it. Because what you do when you say, no, I could, but I'm just too tired, or I could, but I don't know, I'm just not feeling it, I deserve a rest day. What you're doing is you're like having self-admittance that you're incapable. And when you go through 5 years of doing that, 5 straight years of like having those self-admittance points where you're like, oh, I'm not capable of doing that, you just train your mind to a point where your view on yourself and what you're capable of is so low.
That's so true.
Like these people like The Rock, David Goggins, for them, they've been going 10 plus years saying, I can do it. It seems possible, so I will make it possible. And because of that, to them it's just a lifestyle.
Yeah.
To where the person who convinced themselves for 5 straight years that it is a little hard, doing one single thing, one single one of those tasks seems like the end of the world.
Working out, or I don't know, looking into your future, or doing something you're passionate about, like whatever it may be, like it requires work. And if you're physically and monetarily and you have the time for it, like,
then do it.
It's doable. That's kind of how that's what I was telling my friend Paulina, that we run together every so often, and you know, I'll be like, all right, like, let's do a 7 miler today, like, let's do 7 miles. She's like, no. I'm like, well, can you do it? She's like, yes.
That's also insane. You're like throwing her off the deep end with that one. That's like, let me go run 7 miles after.
Yeah.
But I get the principle.
Yeah, the principle is like, well, if you can do it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I guess
not?
Theoretically I could go like run 30 right now, but
theoretically we could run to San Antonio, you know, but
yeah,
it's
with reason, I guess. But yeah, 7 miles isn't without a reason.
Yeah,
I would say.
No, and it sometimes helps, like, physically or mentally. Like, I'll give examples to both, like, men, or I guess mentally. First semester of my sophomore year, I don't forget this, I signed up for 4 AP classes and 5 dual credits, which is more than what a college student takes. In college, you take 4 classes to be full-time, 5 if you're trying, 6 if you're, you know.
Yeah.
I did 5 duals and 4 APs one semester. And I had maybe 4 other classes, maybe 2 study halls or 1 study hall, or 3 other classes. So in total, I'm taking like 12 classes, which is like an absurd amount, right? And I remember my counselor, and I love her for, like, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. She threw me down that deep end. She was the reason why I got into UT, the way I got into UT, and everything along the side of that. And she said, you know, if you get a single B, I'll make sure everybody knows you got a B, right? And if you don't really know the person you're saying that to, that could backfire really bad, right? Yeah. Like, your counselor telling that to, like, but she knew me well enough to know that I could take that. And I was like, you know what? All right. So then I got all A's, and I threw myself in that deep end. It's my second year in America. My English still wasn't this articulate, this good. Another example of physically doing that is the first time I ever ran, like tracking my miles, like actually went for a run, was this summer after we got back from Miami. I was like, all right, like, let me go. And I ran 3.5 miles to Barton Springs, swam.
That's an insane first run.
And then ran back and started raining, and my pace was at like 12 minutes a mile, which is like, at that point, might as well just be walking, right?
Yeah.
And I think in both cases, it sucked, but it definitely, like, put a lot of physical and mental, like, what would you say, like, was a time where you mentally put yourself in a position where you're like, I'm sure in high school too, you probably, like, did a lot of, like, extracurriculars, like debate and stuff like that.
Put myself in a mentally tough situation.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, probably either just coming to school in general.
Yeah.
Coming to college, like, I think it's like underestimated how stressful coming to college is, especially I know a lot of people from UT are either from San Antonio, Houston, or Dallas. So home is like a easy drive away, like a 2-3 hour drive away.
Yeah.
I think probably the scariest thing I've ever done where I just said like I'm doing it is just coming to college, coming 8 hours away from home. No, not one single human being in Austin. I've told you this, so it's not going to sound very different, but coming just like as inspiration for people who maybe want to get out of their hometown or maybe just want to start somewhere fresh. I came to this city with not one single family member here. I came here with one friend who I was slightly close with, but we didn't even hang out in that first year, so I might as well have just come here with zero connections, zero anything. Coming to a college, coming where I'm going to work, coming where I'm going to start handling how rent is paid, where I'm going to start just going from my mom doing my laundry, making me food every day, telling me when I need to wake up for school, to boom, I'm going to drop you into the biggest city in one of the biggest city in Texas, zero connections, figure it out.
Yeah, that's true actually.
And it's like underestimated, but honestly anybody could do it. Like,
yeah, it is very doable as far as like making it out here, making friends.
Yeah.
You know, surrounding yourself with the right people. And I guess I have taken like the Turkish community for granted in that sense, because like I had a place for myself ready here with people I went to like high school with. Yeah. Like one of the first people that I met, Lutfi, one of the first people that I met when I came to the United States was him. I was gonna be sharing a room with him, so it's like, oh, like that's chill, you know, might as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, from my high school, there was one kid, Brandon, that I've seen twice in the past 3 years. I don't talk to him like that much, but it is a little scary.
Yeah.
But we did network. We kind of, I guess, networking. We follow each other on Instagram. We had like group chats, and do you remember we talked about the FaceTime call?
Oh yeah.
The like just friends that you make along the way, and then people are nicer than you think. I think a lot of people look very intimidating from the outside. But
in Austin, everyone's nice. If you want to make a friend, no one's going to ignore you.
Yeah. I mean, on campus, maybe, like, on campus.
Metropolitan area.
Yes. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
A lot of people are, but, you know, like, that's one thing I'm not looking forward to in New York. It's like, people from New York are assholes, dude. And, like, that's not a hot take. That's a given. That's fine.
Yeah, like, if you fall on the sidewalk, somebody needs to get to work, they're walking over you to get to work. Like, that might be an over-exaggeration, but that wouldn't surprise me.
No, yeah. In Austin, in any, like, the Southern hospitality is real.
Yeah.
Texas, Colorado, Alabama, even Florida sometimes. Like, there are people that, you know, like, that may not know you, that care for you. And then you go to fucking, like, the Northeast, bro.
They do not.
Everybody's care. A dick. Like, Chicago, everyone has a dick up their ass for no reason. Like,
yeah. If you trip on a crack in Austin, like, slightly, people are going to run you. Like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Are you okay? Like, do you need anything? Like, you could probably, like, fall off a slightly tall building, just be laying there, and people are just going to be looking at you in New York. Like, oh, off to work.
There you go, another. New York is crazy. Someone's probably gonna record you.
Yeah.
Like, I fell off my skateboard here a few times. I still have some of my. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but yeah. Every time I fell, like someone ran up to me, like, "Oh, are you good?" I'm like,
yeah.
But another thing I wanted to mention was this is the thought I want your opinion on this, because I feel like because we talk so often, it's kind of hard to generate new. I mean, I guess you did have a moment of realization, but, like, it's hard to generate, like, new thoughts and new ideas. But I was talking to Ariel about this the other day, and I was kind of saying something along the lines of, like, oh, like, I want to reach out to my ex at some point to talk, to kind of, like, admit to the things that I have done wrong, right? Like, it's like, you know, maybe I did put her in a mold that she wasn't going to be in because I was trying to change her. Like, these things that I've done wrong that I've realized over time, and Ariel just got wisdom, bro. He said, he was like, it's better not to. Like, you would be doing her a disservice because she's living her life on her own, doing things on her own, and you're kind of like coming in, disturbing her peace, and like kind of like making it about yourself in a way. And it's selfish of you to think that she needs to hear that she needs to hear, oh, you know what, I did mess up. Whereas, like, she's probably doing fine, which I know she's doing fine. Like, I know, actually, I don't know, but I'm going to assume that she's doing fine. But, like, what do you think? Like, you know a lot about my situation specifically.
Yeah. I definitely think from personal experience, I'm not friends with my exes, but I definitely had just as much of rocky endings with my past relationships as I did, as you did.
Yeah.
And I personally think that reaching back out to them eventually, it's not a must. Like, your life and her life will go on without the interaction, but I personally found it to be fruitful in the past when I did it. Because once you're far removed from the situation, and maybe you're just not far removed enough, and I genuinely think you might not be far removed enough, but once it's far removed and you guys can just genuinely sit down and like clarify some things human to human, I think it's pretty mature. Because I feel you can never have claimed to have loved somebody at one point if you don't always love them enough to want to clarify why you may have hurt their feelings at a certain point in time. And if you don't care about that enough, then you just never really love them in the first place, and you need to question why you're getting into relationships with people you don't love.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, you should definitely, but with what Adiel said about it's unfair to assume that she needs that, there's truth to that, because I feel like you can come at her and you can say, hey, look, I just want to apologize for this, and this. There's no way for you to know what she needs an apology for. It could be something completely unrelated. That's what I found. I usually think I know where I've made a girl upset, and then I say sorry, and she's like, oh, I didn't even care about that. I cared about this.
And you're like, oh.
So if anything, you would approach a conversation with her and be like, look, I don't know if you need any closure. I don't know if you feel like you need an apology, but just know that I'm there and I'm open to give that to you if that's something that you want. Because it's like a double-edged sword, how you were saying earlier. Just as unfair as it is to assume that she doesn't need that, it's also just as unfair to assume, just as unfair as it is to assume that she does need it, it's also just as unfair to assume that she doesn't need it.
Ooh.
So you should just ask her.
That's true.
Which you're good at. It's transparent.
No, it is. It is. I just, like, I find, like, I journal. I've been journaling recently, which helps. Like, I always used to hear, like, these fucking gurus saying, oh, do these things. And one of them is waking up in the morning, taking a cold shower, writing down the things you want to do. Bro, it actually works. Like, there's a reason why so many people are saying it. Yeah. Cold showers work, journaling works, like all these things do work. But I haven't been, like, I find myself slowly forgetting what she even looked like. I don't say her name. Like, it's slowly fading away, which is, I'm grateful that it is. Like, I obviously, like, I'm getting over somebody, so, like, that's what you want, right? But at the same time, I'm like, kind of like what you said, it's unfair to assume she needs it or unfair to assume that she doesn't need it. And I have these thoughts that I want to share. So I do think it would be good to just sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, like, look, just kind of learn, like, how I was perceived, like, the things I've done wrong. Just have an open conversation. Like, I think that would be good eventually.
Yeah.
But not right now.
Yeah. The one thing about you two, in a lot of relationships, there's either two really shitty human beings together, and there's shitty humans, sorry, hot take, but there's either two shitty humans together, one good human and one shitty human, where, like, the issue that happened, it's probably pretty black and white. But with you guys, you're both actually like really good people. So I know that every single bit of conflict that you both experience, that car pass, every little bit of conflict that you both experience was both just misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Like you both acted in what you perceived as the right thing to do as two good people. But I know if you guys clarify a lot of things and come from an understanding point, there is progress to be made between y'all because again, you guys are two good people. Now, if it's a shitty person, yeah, realistically, talking to them is gonna get you nowhere.
Yeah.
But you two, particular, I can say, in a level-headed like mindset, you guys can give each other a lot of clarity on where things went wrong.
That kind of made it sound like we're not getting back together. Or anything.
Yeah,
It's
no.
just kind of talking about like I need to figure out myself. Like that's what I've realized. Like I'm this kid from Cherokee who grew up in Morocco, and my parents, like if anybody here really knows my parents, they're the most religious people on earth, and a lot of people say that, but my parents are genuinely like,
No, yeah, like every second of their life is like they live the way that they're supposed to.
Right. Yeah. So that's my background, and then but I come here and all of a sudden like I deviate from my religion, from my culture a lot, and I date a girl who's even dating is questionable as far as things goes. I date a girl that's not from my culture, not from my background, not from my religion, and I try to make her to be this person that she's not. Okay, well that didn't work. So now we're here, and then it's like I need to figure out where I want to be, like how close I want to be to the religion, how like these things I need to figure out, so that way I can look for somebody rather than being uncertain and being with somebody who is also like maybe trying to figure shit out, and then it's just kind of like it just gets ugly, and I think that's where I may be able to gain some clarity on like, yeah, dude, like I need to figure my shit out.
Yeah.
And
It's a little more complicated when you have like a religion that sets such a strict moral code.
yeah,
You have to realize where you're willing to compromise, where you're not willing to compromise, and then once you have that solid like understanding of where you're willing to compromise and where you're not, then start looking for a woman that fits into that.
yeah.
Because you can't change. We talked about this the other day. You can never change anybody you're with. I know you kind of disagreed with it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree, but
I just like what my explanation as to why you can never change a girl is because she either loves you so much that she ends up changing for you, but she changes into something that she doesn't love because she's obviously being the version of herself that she wants to be. But when you change her and she loves you so much that she changes, she ends up resenting you for taking the parts of her that she loves so much, which just results in your relationship ending. Or just flat out you have a boss girl who's just like, you're trying to change me? Hell yeah, peace. But it never works out. You need to find a girl more or less who fits in the key things. You obviously not like, okay, she needs to be a 10 out of 10. She needs to make six figure. Like, don't build the perfect girl.
yeah.
But in the very fundamental things, you should have an understanding of what you want, because changing girls is just...
Yeah, like politically, like I think as far as things that can't change goes, kind of to expand on Logan's point, it's mostly like political views are very hard to change. Religious views are hard to change. Like you can never convert a girl who grew up Muslim to, like, if you convert a girl who grew up Muslim to Christianity, it's like she wasn't really Muslim. I mean, same way with the other way around. Like if somebody really grew up Catholic or Christian, they're probably not gonna convert, right? And then political, religious, and honestly, like I guess
ethically,
moral, like kind of like different variations of. They all mean the same thing. Like they all carry some type of like code, some type of grounding, I guess. Those things are hard to change. I think they can be changed, like because with that sentiment, like people that have converted to Islam or another religion because of their partner, they still truly believe in that. Like,
I think if you set the intention of changing your partner, like sitting down with them and saying, look, I want you to be like this because of this, it's never going to work. But what you can do is like one thing that is like very common is like the dressing promiscuous, posting on Instagram very promiscuously. It's just something you're never going to be able to change, or they're going to hate you for changing it. But what you can do, and it's comparable to like how you're saying with religion, you can change their environment. So say your girl dresses promiscuously and does the same on Instagram. Suddenly you make her a mother. Suddenly you put her in a middle class household and she has 3 kids and an image to uphold. She's going to change because of her environment more times and start being more conservative. With religion, a scenario like that is you place her around that religion. She meets your parents, sees how good she is. She goes to the mosque with you or whatever. Oh, well, you can't go unless you're Muslim, right?
No, you can go.
Okay, so she goes to the mosque with you, sees how beautiful it is, and sees you and your parents enjoying it for what it is. Not because you want her to do it, but just...
That's true. That's true.
It's just a change of scenery. If the environment of a woman can change her, by all means. But if you're that driving force that changes her, it'll never end well.
Also, I think this applies to both men and women. Like if
I
men's
guess,
environment, like.
But in this case, it's women.
Yeah, like we're talking about our partners. Or my partner. Yeah, I mean, it's just been very interesting. Like, I don't know what like. I look at my life before the U.S. and I have like this perception of what it used to be. I lived in Morocco for 6 years, right? In streets of Casablanca, like, that's all I knew. Like, I would walk everywhere. I changed schools every year. I met, that was my life from 8 to 13, right? And when I look back at those times, it's like a different person. The things I would say, the things that I would do, everything is different, right? And then now I'm kind of starting to feel that gap between my current life and my high school. I think that always happens the more you grow, because I've learned a lot, about myself, about life through these college experiences, whether if it's trips, relationships, guys, girls, like whatever it is. I'm learning a lot. And now that I look back at my high school stuff, I'm like, oh, like I am so different. And now that chapter of my life is becoming, back in the day. And then maybe once I graduate and I, working corporate, I'll look back at these times. I'm like, we drove 15 hours to Colorado. Like the absurd things that we do. Oh, we left a Travis Scott concert to drive to El Paso through the night. Like,
yeah.
And then I think that's a good thing, because that just shows growth. Like, you look back and you're like, oh. But let's talk about our future plans. We're gonna have. I'm not gonna say any names. I am in the works for having somebody important on the podcast. The one I just mentioned in the car.
That's in the work, like heavily in the works. That would be insane.
Yeah.
That would be like.
It is in the works. How doable it is, I don't know. But then I have a couple other people that I will have on the podcast as well. Mm-hmm. YouTube videos of Ruidoso coming soon, and then we're going to San Diego. So that's probably gonna be another one, like Colorado. Just trips, and then once I'm back, I'm gonna do like a day in the life video, which is like, I used to think they were corny, but then I find myself like doing so much shit. Like, I'm sure with you too, like PCL for 6 hours, boom. Midterm, boom. Gym, boom.
Bro, let's start a TikTok, bro.
We could, bro. Let's
go viral. Day in the life of a college student.
First thing in the morning, I give head to my roommate.
Yeah, I could confirm.
It's crazy. I was talking about Nah. But yeah, do you have anything more to add? We've been going for an hour 10.
No, I don't have anything to add. Just if you've watched up until this point,
shout out.
Shout out. Give us
Logan's
like recommendation. Yeah, my mom. The one viewer, nah, Anna ain't watching this far.
You don't think so?
I don't know, maybe. Fuck, I don't know.
Hey, look, if she sends you a clip from this part, then
If you get this far, I miss you. Can't wait to see you. It's been hard without you, so yeah.
that's fair. Shit. But yeah, no, I appreciate everybody watching. Izzy, she's one of my friends. If you're watching, thank you too. Because she's like one of the random people that like follow their Instagram that like said, dude, like, where your podcast? Like, I haven't seen an episode in a while.
Hell yeah.
And I was like,
shout out Izzy. Hell yeah.
yeah. But yeah, love you guys. Hopefully better production, better things, better guests, better everything coming soon.
It's a late night vibe too, so
That's
probably
kinda
more
chill.
interesting pop culture topics in the future, maybe.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I got this Kanye shirt.
Hell yeah.
Kanye on top. Okay.
Hell yeah. Peace out.
Good night.